We got Glory in the barn and ran for the porch. Just then the storm hit. Sheets of rain and hail big as hickory nuts. "Whoa!" Daddy hollered. We swung Picker up on his shoulders and we all started hollering and dancing around like a bunch of crazy folks. The rain blew in on the porch and we all got wet. But we were hot and sweaty and it felt wonderful. A few days later, Will Crocker told Amos Burdash about Picker's amazing performance in the cotton field. Amos was the editor of the town newspaper, the Courant. And he didn't waste a bit of time. He drove his old Ford out to our place to talk to Daddy about an idea he had. "John," he said, "can this boy of yours pick grapes?" "Picker can pick anything," Daddy said. "What do you want to know, Amos?" Mr. Burdash said, "John, I've got an idea. You probably never heard about it, but there is this big grape-picking contest in France next month." "France?" Daddy hollered. "Amos, you must be—" "Listen, John, there's a prize. Cash money, $5,000. I think this boy of yours could win it." Daddy sat down in the swing, looking like he'd been hit between the eyes with a 2x4. "Lord, Amos, that's a lot of money. You must be fooling me. I could never get Picker over to France. I can barely keep shoes on these young'uns, much less buy a ticket to France." "Not one ticket, John. 2. One for Picker and one for Alice. But the newspaper will pay for the trip. Here's something else. The champion grape picker in France is a 300-pound gypsy called Big Louis Girard. Look here, I got a picture of him. Think of what a story it would be if Big Louis got beat by a 4-year-old from Evergreen, Alabama. It could put Evergreen on the map." "Lord," said Daddy, who seemed to be pared down to one word. Then Mama chimed in.
"France, John, just think of it. I've never been further than Montgomery. Oh, John, can we go?"
I guess it had finally sunk in on Daddy, 'cause he leaned back in the swing with a twinkle in his eye and grinned at Mama fondly. "Alice, I'm gonna miss you bad, but there ain't no way on God's earth I'd let you miss out on going to France." Well, it's a good thing there was a strong chain on the swing, 'cause Mama jumped in his lap and gave him such a kiss that us kids got embarrassed. A week after this, we were down at the station waving goodbye to Mama and Picker as the train pulled out. After that, we read about them in the newspaper, but we didn't get the whole story till Mama got back and told us what really happened. Mama said it was embarrassing when they got to Bordeaux, France, and met Big Louis. Instead of shaking hands with Picker, Big Louis fell on the ground holding his sides, laughing till tears poured down his face, stopping only long enough to point at Picker in amazement, only to start laughing all over again. It made Picker mad, which is hard to do. Picker said to Mama,
"Mr. Big Louis not gonna laugh so hard tomorrow,"
which was the longest sentence anybody had heard out of Picker. Well, the next day they were out in the vineyard early. Each picker in the contest had his own row of grapes in the big square field. All the rows were the same length. Whoever got to the end first was going to be the champion. Big Louis had heard that Picker had never picked grapes before and started to laugh all over again. Then he told the judges to take Picker over in another field and let him practice so he wouldn't be so embarrassed in the contest. Picker stood there with his arms folded over his chest and said,
"No, thank you, Mr. Judge. Picker don't need practice."
True, very true as it turned out. The judge fired a gun to start the contest, and Big Louis was finishing off his 4th vine when another gun went off at the end of the field where Picker had finished. Big Louis looked stunned. "Mon Dieu," he said, "c'est impossible," which means something like, "Lord have mercy, that's impossible." It was quite a shock for Big Louis, but he turned out to have a heart as big as the rest of him. 'cause when Picker got the prize, Big Louie gave a very warm speech. He said it was an honor to be beaten by Monsieur Picker, the greatest piqueur that the world would ever know. Piqueur was as close as the French could come to Picker. It sounded something like piqûre. Picker loved France. He said he didn't like to be called no piqûre. Anyway, there was a victory parade, and Big Louie carried Picker all around Bordeaux on his shoulder while folks cheered and threw flowers. 2 weeks later, the world's champion grape picker came home to Evergreen, Alabama. It did put Evergreen on the map, too. All the big newspapers picked up the story of the 4-year-old champion grape picker. Picker was famous, but he didn't seem to care. He just went right back to being a normal little boy, only more dreamy and peaceful than most. Daddy wanted to put the prize money in the bank for Picker to have for college, but Picker said he wanted us to own our own piece of land and our little house. So Daddy used the money for that, but he put the house and the land in Picker's name. There was enough left over for Daddy to buy a tractor, so he could farm a little easier, and our hard-working mule, Glory, could retire. Then Picker went downtown with Mama and bought us all something. Mama got some pretty new dresses, and we all got some new clothes and shoes. But we each got something special, too. Amy Lou got a beautiful doll. Sally, who was a tomboy, got a baseball glove and a ball. And me and Rufus got Red Ryder BB guns. Boy, was that exciting. Then Daddy asked Picker what he wanted.
Picker want a pretty banjo like Daddy play,
he said. Why, sure, said Daddy. No reason why a champion picker can't pick a banjo. Well, you might guess what happened when Picker got a hold of that banjo. But that's another story, one I aim to tell you next time. Right now, let's all get us a cool glass of milk and a cookie before bed. If y'all come back tomorrow, I promise to tell you about how Picker and his banjo made things a whole lot better for all us McClikkers. Good night, youngins. Sleep tight.
Today's stories were Swamp Angel and Picker McClikker. And as you can see, Picker McClikker's been running around the studio all day today. Maybe we can get a shot or two of them. But in the meantime, remember to visit Books A Million for these wonderful books, Picker McClikker and the Swamp Angel.